Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdarch.
Nerdarch is Ted.
And we're going to talk about random encounters, pros and cons.
This video is brought to you by Nord Games. You can check out the link in the description below, as well as get access to a coupon code for 10% off any Nord Games orders. Games by gamers for gamers.
Today we're discussing random encounters and their value in your game, and it's actually been inspired by Nord Games and one of their more recent Kickstarters that had kicked. They actually did a random encounter deck of cards for monsters, and this is one I'm actually very excited about. And Nerdarchy actually added some feedback that they actually incorporated into this deck of cards.
That's pretty awesome to hear.
Yeah, so basically what it is monsters by terrain. And this is what I've been looking for anyway, because I'm so tired of, you look for random encounters and you look for monster tables, and it's always by CR. It's always the appropriate monster for the appropriate level for the appropriate character. But that's not what I want.
This is one of the things that Dave has always had in his head, regardless of the edition. We play in a living, breathing world. We live in a living, breathing world. And the challenges that we come up against are not always, equal to what we are. We're not always equal to the task. So you have to be able to put out there sometimes a threat, and the players and characters are going to come across it and have to realize, oh man, I can't handle this. I need to get out. I need to run. I need to do something.
Yes,
So
sometimes you're going to randomly come upon kobolds and start punting their heads off, and other times you're going to be running from giants.
now, originally in the deck of cards, it literally was a list of monsters, right? And there were various challenge ratings. Well, one of the suggestions I made, and Nord Games was cool enough to throw in there, was now they just have a die number, D10 numbers on the side. So you randomly pick a card from your deck for the appropriate terrain, and then you can just drop a D10, and that's what the monster is. Like you said, it might be a kobold or it might be a giant. You might be punting heads, or you might get your head punted, depending on where you fall in the ecosystem here.
So I think the interesting thing there is it winds up creating encounters that have the ability to test your players in multiple ways. Now let's take those two examples, the kobold and the giant, and let's take a low-level party and a high-level party. The low-level party encounters the giant. The intelligent party member says, well, we can't handle a giant. I'm going to back off, and, could be a role-playing encounter. It could be, how do you run? The DM might on the fly turn it into a chase scene, and they have to survive for so long to be able to get to somewhere that the giant can't fit into. Really, really awesome scenario. Now we turn it on the flip side. High-level party comes across a group of kobolds. What kind of things are they going to do with that? Yeah, it could very easily just be all right, well, the kobolds are doing something bad, and the party mops the floor with them within the one round. Literally, a warlock and Eldritch Blast takes half of them out in one, with one cantrip. No big deal. But what are the other options that you could wind up doing there to make this a fun or interesting encounter for a high-level party?
Yeah, so in both of those scenarios, right, you have these different set of choices, and they're going to be dictated by, who's dominant, right? Whether it's the players, whether it's the monsters. In the latter case where it's the players and the monster is weaker, maybe they negotiate. Maybe they're the ones that initiate the role playing. Maybe the players have a reputation, they've heard of them. So now you have to think of, now they have to think about, well, what are we going to do? With these kobolds, do we, like you said, just mop the floor with them and be done with them and just murder them because they're kobolds, or, if they haven't really done anything wrong? So, you can have, these moral implications. Now, in the example of the giant and the party's low level, well, now you might have just initiated a chase sequence, like you said, so we can have a skill challenge instead of a combat, where the players aren't rolling off against the giant, they're rolling off against the difficulty checks that you've put in place for athletics or acrobatics or, survival or knowledge nature, knowledge history, whatever you decide. And it creates a different kind of encounter. Now there's going to be pros and cons to this method, and in general, just introducing random encounters to your game. So if you think about it, what do you think are going to be the cons of doing something like this?
Well, a con is if you're not really good at thinking on the fly or at improvisation, when you roll giant, you're like, oh, this is bad. I don't know what to do with this guy. What if they do fight the giant? And you're thinking, well, they should have just ran away, but they fight him anyway. Are you going to have to knock him down? Are you going to decide, oh, the giant's just so powerful, it just grabs you and captures you and puts you in a sack? And then there's this whole other kind of thing like, well, I wasn't planning on taking them to a giant's house, and kind of it can derail a segment of it, but it can also create a really fun encounter and time. So there's the big con is not being able to do that smoothly or effectively, and worrying about killing players.
Right. Maybe this DM has never heard of Odysseus. They can't just steal that and insert it right into his game.
So, another major con is random encounters at its core is a derailment from the main storyline. And if you take something that is grossly overpowered or grossly underpowered, it can be a further derailment because the players are going to deal with whatever's there or have to be dealt with depending upon, again, who is the dominant party. So at its core, it creates a challenge and a derailment from the main storyline.
Well, you bring up a good point, because it can actually be even worse than that, because your players might get this idea that there's something else they have to do or deal with. And not only does the encounter itself slow down and take away from the main story, they may be looking for another story now. Now, that's not necessarily like
another story or another connection.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Ted's game is all about these blood demons, and now all of a sudden here's this thing. Well, how does this tie in?
That giant had a red belt. That must have something to do with it.
Right. And so as the GM, you have to be prepared to let them go off on their side tangent and make something up and resolve it, or tie it in somehow, or who knows what you're going to do with it. But this is definitely something can come up and be a difficulty in your game. It depends what kind of game you're running too. Like if you're running a very much sandbox style game, this might be like a non-issue for you, and this is like normal, right? Like literally, like if you're running a West March style hex crawl, that's all you do anyway. But but if you're running a more linear and focused storyline, then this could end up being a problem and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, if you're coming from a sandbox approach and it's like, oh, another random roll that changed where the game was going. Yeah. I don't even know where the tracks are anymore on this railroad. So what does it matter?
Now, so what are the pros? What do you think? What are reasons to use random encounters in your game?
All right, I literally came across a conversation online where someone was like, "Oh, my players keep doing this. My players keep doing that. How do I stop that?" And it doesn't matter what that was. Someone's reply was roll initiative. Random encounters can literally be inserted almost anywhere. I mean, giants are not going to just magically appear in town unless that's something that happens in your world. But you literally can have something that happens and the players are derailed from whatever it is they're doing, whether they're arguing, whether they're infighting, whether they're just talking too much. Boom.
Resting
combat.
too much.
Resting too much is a big one.
So you think you'll get a short rest, huh?
So it's a good way to do that, and you just throw something in there.
Also, you'll get like this camping idea where players will camp out an area for whatever reason. Like in older editions, you had to do it to heal, and unlike 5th edition where it's like long rest, you're good. But in order to break that up, well, you can do that, but this is the wilderness, and we roll random encounters. And if I roll this d6 and I get a 1 through 3, you get an encounter. So then it's no longer viable for you to hang out there.
Right.
Maybe more civilized lands, it's 1 and 6, and like you can play with different things. But this is what we used to do in like 1st and 2nd edition all the time. Is you would just grab whatever the die was, and there was a set amount of numbers on there that there was a range. If that range came up, it's a random encounter time. Now we go to our random encounter tables. And I can't wait for the Nord random monster decks to come out, because I am definitely going to be dropping these in some of my games.
Another pro I would say would be it helps shake the game up a bit, and by that I mean a lot of times you can kind of get into that. Oh, here we're not in a dungeon, so we're fine, or we're traveling and nothing ever bothers us while we travel. We always get to our destination, so we don't have to worry about it.
We're walking down the street in Gryffindor.
Yeah, walking down the street in Gryffindor. Don't expect a chaos beast, do you? Well, now one showed up. So there's all these kind of things. It helps shake up the game a bit. It also helps break the monotony of what someone would say would be a normal everyday event. This happens all the time. Nothing ever bothers me. It always goes as I plan. So it keeps. I think it kind of can re-engage players if they kind of get into a lull or kind of like a normal groove on how things go.
One of the things, one of the biggest things really is this kind of like solidifies and concretes the idea that this is a living, breathing world where things just happen. Sometimes, in the real world, you're going to get a flat tire and you have to fix it and you don't have the stuff you need to fix it. Or maybe you don't even know how to change a flat tire. Because you know what? That pothole down the road just didn't care. And sometimes the monsters are like that and the random encounters are like that as well.
Yeah, going along with you encounter a CR10 bus, try and get away from it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So by having these random encounters, you honestly you can go away from your prepared material. You have the ability to say, all right, I need a thinking break, and in doing so, you can be like, well, I'm going to insert combat here. Whether it's because you want that time, whether it's because you got a player at the table who's like, all right, I haven't fought anything in a while. What's going on? When's the next combat? When's the next combat? Boom.
We call that the almost random encounter. I randomly selected a monster, but I select it right now for it to happen.
So yeah, and you have the ability to do that, and sometimes it'll make those players happy. Sometimes you want to do it just because you want to do it.
You want to change the flow of the game at the time.
Pace. It can definitely alter the pace, and it's a good reason to use it. So the question is, do you guys use random encounters in your games? What do you think of them? We got a place for that. That is down in the comments below. Let us know what you think while you're at it. Like, share, and subscribe.
You can check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
And don't forget to check the description and get to Nord Games and use that coupon code.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.